All right, so hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Today we are talking with Chris about his successful accomplishment of passing his life, was it life or life and health?
It was life.
His life pre-license exam in the state of North Carolina. I believe you had failed it the first time and you passed it the second time, is that right?
I failed it 3 times. I passed it the fourth.
Oh wow, okay, cool man. Well, first off, good for you for making it happen and persevering because that's what it takes to be a successful insurance agent. So it shows that you can get knocked down and get back up. But guess we want to just jump right into it here. What were your first thoughts the first time around when you took the final exam compared to how you had been preparing for it?
You mean like when I got to the end of my exam, what were my feelings or?
No, like when you first started taking it, right? So you went through the whole preparation process. So you studied for it, you did your
Mhm.
best, did as much as you could, and then you ended up getting to the final exam, right? Like actually taking the exam through the states, whatever they have. What were your thoughts when you actually sat down to take the test versus what your thoughts would be, like your anticipation of it?
I was anticipating a pretty straightforward exam that tested the basic understanding of what the material covered.
Hmm.
What I found when I got there was they're looking for an extremely high level of understanding of these terms, every feature about these terms, and just being really prepared to answer any question about any of the features of the policy. I was very surprised with the level of detail they were looking for at a lot of the questions.
Can you give me an example of that, if you can think of one?
Yeah, give me 1 second.
No problem.
Let's see. There was one question that was asking about joint life insurance.
Hmm.
It had unnecessary information thrown into it. The keywords could kind of be easy to kind of jumble up a little bit between like talking specifically about the answer choices for that question. It was you're looking at things like, is this a joint life refund account or is this a joint life survivor like
Oh, okay.
single premium account? And how close a lot of the options were was like really alarming to me almost. It was so difficult to pick the right answers on some of these. Like they used pure life, talking about a whole life policy, when everything in my material had referenced that as straight life. I do remember like 1 or 2 times it being clarified that straight life is also referred to as pure life. But that's also really confusing because they refer to term insurance as pure insurance. So there's just a lot of little silly things going on.
That's so weird. So straight life, pure life. Term insurance is pure insurance. Okay, yeah. And you know what? It's weird because it like each state's got their own little things, but I'm going to make sure to add that to specifics for my pre-license course so that people will know. I can put a little note in there. Hey, some states may refer to straight life as pure life. Don't get it confused with term insurance, which is known as pure insurance. So
Yeah.
two different factors. Okay, so essentially it was like a very, very meticulous vocabulary test where like you really, really have to know the definitions of each word. Is that right?
Yeah, if I could develop a perfect tool that would have helped me, like outside of your wonderful course, of course, like do you know those exercises where they scramble up terms and then you match them?
Mm.
It'll have like a list on the left, and then you draw a line to the appropriate term that it belongs to. So, like, what was really hard for me, like, I had the whole time, I had a pretty good understanding of what all of the terms meant for the different types of life insurance and stuff like that. But what I was really struggling with was being given a description of a feature and knowing what type of policy specifically that went to.
Okay. I'm
That
trying to
was
think of.
probably the biggest struggle for me.
Okay. I'm
If
trying to
that
think
makes
of.
sense.
No, it does make sense. I mean, I'm trying to think of, um, exactly how that could be formulated because I'm always trying to provide more things to people to help them pass and help them study. Because not only do I help you guys pass with my videos for people watching here, but I have people who I hire internally as agents to work with me to sell insurance. So obviously, I spend a lot of money on hiring people, right? Recruiting. I want to get as many people passing the exam as possible. So that was kind of the actually what resulted in the birth of this channel, and then the courses that I have too, and study guides and everything else to help people pass. So you're saying a tool, and this is for everybody out here who's watching this too, something where you can have like a definition and then a term, and then you draw a line to it. So you have like a bunch of terms and then a bunch of definitions, and then you just draw the lines to which one it is. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so for example, like on the left side, you have something that says this is the cheapest type of policy, and then you draw that and attach it to term life.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay, gotcha. So
Or like
cheapest.
this type of account specifically operates on investments and drawing that to variable life.
Okay, gotcha. I
Things
love that. I'm gonna look for a way to create that and put it into my course. I think that would be cool to have interactive games because the one thing with a lot of these courses is like they're just like it's just like I don't know. It's hard. Sometimes I found there can be kind of not ambiguous, but like sometimes they don't define things the way they should be defined. So it's almost like you have to have a financial services background when you start reading it because that it's a big vocabulary test, everybody. So if you're going through it and you don't, that's why honestly, if the courses were really good, my channel wouldn't even exist because no one would need to go look for outside sources to learn the material, right? So if you're going through your course, whichever one you're taking, you could be taking my course. If you're interested in that, just email me at the email in the video. You could be taking Excel. You could be taking ExamFX. If you're going through any of those and you don't understand any of some of the words, make sure you find that definition because, like what Chris is saying right here, that's the key to it. Like knowing the definitions, like the back of your hand. So, that's huge. So, what did your study structure look like? I tried to say that in one word.
Okay.
Structure.
So the first time I just I went through the Fusion Certus material and just kind of went about things pretty normal. I read the slideshows, I watched the videos, I took the practice exams. I would go back and I would retake a few of the quizzes that I was a little sloppier on. And then I started watching whatever YouTube content that I can find that seemed trustworthy. And I guess that didn't really work out. It took me three total read throughs of the material before a lot of this stuff really started to stick.
Okay, cool. So you guys want to make sure you go through it a few times to get it to really stick. If you could go back to the beginning to pass it your first time around, what would you do?
If I could go back to the beginning to pass it my first time around, I do believe the Excel course was a little more tailored to help you pass. If I'd assume most people are dealing with that,
Hmm.
but my biggest recommendation would be to take the practice quizzes every single day. I would go back and review the different types of policies, annuities. The Social Security stuff was kind of brutal. I didn't have much trouble with like the other terms and policies kind of stuff category, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get it. So with like
Um,
the like some like 'cause the life policies you kind of had down, maybe the riders and stuff, you were a little bit more comfortable with that.
and I just would have been hammering it about 5 times harder than I thought I needed to.
Okay, well that's like a lot of stuff, right? It's like when people get into the sales aspect of insurance with me, they're like, man, this is tough. It's like, yeah, you just got to get the reps in, go through it a few times. Just like he
Yeah.
went through his course a few times. Sometimes you got to go through your script a few times and stuff like that. But that's for another topic there. So, how important are practice exams and practice quizzes to helping you pass?
Extremely. Honestly, even more so than the material on the test, something that was killing me really hard was the verbiage of the questions, finding the tricks, like when they're trying to stumble you up, when they're adding in unnecessary information. It's really important to find those keywords. If it says temporary, you need to be thinking that's automatically a term policy. things of that nature. If it says interest, you need to know that's going to be some type of, universal policy or variable or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like finding those keywords is really important. And over time, you'll see the ones that kind of like shape that narrative, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure. So just like trigger words, right? Like you automatically want to be associating certain things with that. And it's good that you just went and took it, and it's also good that you took it several times until you passed it, because most people think like 82% of people who fail the first time never end up taking it again or never pass it. So good job pushing through and getting over that. Now, if there's any advice that I had offered you or that you had seen in the course that that you got from me, what was helpful and what do you think was the most impactful from that stuff?
The biggest thing that I got from your material was the structure of it. You did a really good job of going back, and I didn't feel like I was reading any information that wouldn't help me. I felt like a lot of the fluff, unnecessary information wasn't really focused on. It was really easy to get the core material of what I needed to really understand these things. The repetition aspect of your course was really helpful. Here's the slide deck. Here's me explaining the slide deck. And then here's me giving you more perspective on some of the other topics. Like, that was just really awesome for me.
Cool.
All of your advice about, hey, make sure you don't mix up X with Y. You know what I mean?
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah, I got a lot of value from that.
Awesome. Cool, man. Sweet. Now, if someone else, now he took it in North Carolina, everybody, to all my viewers, but like the people run into challenges in every state. So every state's going to be, now is North Carolina on Pearson View, PSI, or Prometric?
Pearson View.
Okay, yeah. So Pearson View, some states use Pearson View. Texas uses Pearson View. Florida uses Pearson View. Most states use Pearson View. Some use Prometric and some use PSI. So in the courses that I have, I actually have those structured so that the states use Pearson View, I have Pearson View practice exams, and then Prometric and PSI. So they try to do it, but they switch them up, so it's tough, right? Because they'll switch their questions up. They probably have a bank of 1,000 questions, and they'll pull a certain amount. So advice to anybody here who's anticipating taking the exam, maybe stressing about it, feels like they can't get the material down, what advice do you have for them?
I kind of want to touch on a question you asked earlier. You asked
Go
kind of
ahead.
like was like going right into it for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I wasn't prepared for was like it was a lot more of an intense experience test taking than I thought it would be. Apologize for those notification tones.
No problem. You're good. I got my dog scratching in the bathroom door in the other room, so I want to get out and yell at the solar guys.
And like after they make you put all of your belongings in a locker, and at least this is how it is for Pearson View.
Yeah, it's like you're going to jail.
It's like you're going to jail. They like shake you down. They check
I
out
know.
your line and like make sure you don't have anything in your pant legs.
Thought they were going to ask me to bend
And
over and pull
it
my pants
just
down.
it sets the tone of like you're making a major decision in your life. This is really important. And the anxiety that kind of comes with that, I really want everybody to be prepared to deal with that. Because like my heart was, I'm a pretty zen, calm individual. Maybe you see some of the art behind me.
Yeah.
Like I was panicking, man. It
I don't
was
mean to laugh, but I'm just thinking
weird.
of when I went. It was like, and the person who's proctoring, that's probably like the first position of authority they've ever had. So they're like, "Is everything out of your pockets?" You're like, "Dude, chill."
Um, Another thing is like they don't tell you what questions you got wrong. There's still questions on some of those attempts that I took that I don't know the right answer to.
Okay.
You know,
So the first few times, what was your score?
I got like a 66 every time.
Oh, that's such a kick in the nuts to be
Oh
like,
man, one of them was like a 67, and if I just like made one more question, I would have passed.
oh.
That was the kick in the nuts.
How did it feel actually passing?
Oh, incredible, man! I ran around through my house and I went woo for about Yeah, 20 minutes straight. It was
I
an
love it.
accomplishment. It felt good. I think the win was more sweet after all the trials that kind of went through it. The worst part for me was the $45 every attempt,
Yeah.
but that was a
Well,
big one.
now, I mean, are you going to get into what are you doing for your insurance career? Or where's the first place that you're going to look at? Have you looked in any place, maybe some place hired you to get your license or something?
Yeah, I'm still figuring some things out. I was hoping to talk to you about one or two things off of the meeting. Um, I had some questions for you about maybe some ways I can get involved with you. But originally, there's a company called Optavise that does business to business insurance.
Okay.
And they had asked me to get my health and life. I still got to pass my health exam, so I get to do this all over again. Um,
Well, I
but
just
I
finished the
think I'll
health
be a little
content,
more.
so I sorry, go ahead.
Think I'll be a little more prepared for it. Really, I just like getting your mind ready to absorb, like, um, getting your mind ready to just really tackle this is like the most important thing for me.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, for me, I remember studying, it was like brutally boring for me. I was like, oh my gosh, is this what I'm going to be doing? And then, thank God, my the guy who hired me was like, dude, this is like it's like high school. You're not going to be using any of this really once you get going. So, I was like, all right, cool. Well, I'm not gonna because there's so much material, and some people do everything in there, but usually, guys, what happens is you get new insurance, and a specialist makes the most money, right? So, like usually end up picking one type of insurance and selling that. So like they did business insurance, which would be like group insurance policies or key person insurance, probably something like that. For us, it's we only sell whole life, right? We do some term, but like 95% of the policies we sell are whole life policies to people over 65. So people who work for a company called Primerica, they cringe because they only sell term, and they're like dead set that whole life is evil, but there's a place for everything. Everything has its purpose. So we sell whole life to people who wouldn't qualify for anything else. So we pick one thing and get good at it. So don't it's just another test, guys. I think what happens is there's so much anxiety associated with exams from our childhood, where we're brought up to think that if we don't get good grades, we are worthless human beings, and we're just like waste of oxygen, and it's just not the case. Where it's proven time and time again that that's just not the case. So, try to go, and if you have to take it a couple times, it's okay. Um,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
felt severely learning impaired trying to pass this. Like,
you know, that's not. I had someone email me. They said that they were taking a course from one of the I forget which company, one of the big companies out there, and they were like, "This has me questioning whether I'm capable of learning anything at all." They were like, "I thought I did pretty." The guy graduated college, he did pretty well. He's like, "Yeah, this course has me questioning my ability to learn anything." And I was like, "Yeah,
yeah,
well,
I'm sorry. What I meant to say before was like getting your mind in the mode and the language of the test.
okay,
That's what I meant to say earlier. I kind of lost my train of thought earlier.
that's
Um,
okay. That makes sense."
but
Just
yeah,
trying to,
just like there's like a specific vocabulary for like test taking. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
the dense language and
techno
just
babble
being used to seeing difficult questions that are meant to trick you. So
makes sense.
after a lot of practice and going out of my way to find more difficult questions that were like phrased a little more vaguely and didn't have as much context and weren't as straightforward, that was a huge game changer for me.
Cool. Well, thank you for the insight there. North Carolina actually, I'm working on them with them for a couple other approvals for pre-licensing stuff, and they're very meticulous with their like what they approve. Because some states they take a look at your course, they don't read through the whole thing. They're like, okay, that's cool, and then they pass it. North Carolina, New Jersey, California, Arkansas, probably a couple other states. Actually, when I'm creating these courses, because the courses I have are approved, they're pre-license approved, so they're approved by the states. North Carolina it's in the process right now. It will be. I just have to modify some of the laws. I guess some of the laws I didn't copy paste exactly, so that's the only difference. I kind of paraphrase some, but they 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 go through line by line each thing, and they make sure that everything on their exam outline is in that course. So it actually helped me because now I'm like, okay, now I know like everything's there, and everything can be touched on. So it's pretty cool they do that. It's kind of a pain because they back and forth on email and stuff, but it's good because we know that hey, the stuff's in there, and they actually do care. So yeah. And now if someone has kind of a tough schedule with being able to set aside a lot of time each day to study for this, how would you recommend they do it? Like if you were to coach someone on studying for their exam, what would you recommend?
Be smart about how you fill the downtime that you do have. Like if you're cleaning, put on a video and listen to it from somebody you trust. I did find a couple questionable YouTube channels, so be careful for that.
There are some. I mean, I try to be as thorough in my content as possible. And if you guys watching this find any mistakes in my videos, let me know because I'm more than happy
Watch
to take it down.
Justin's videos; they helped me a lot.
Awesome, cool.
Having a normal person explain this stuff is really valuable.
Cool. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. And you guys, that's huge. So that's what he's talking about right there is actually a trait of a lot of highly successful people that I know. It's called habit stacking. So it's when you can do two things at once. When you do something that doesn't really take much focus, like walking, cleaning, riding a bike, driving, something like that. Well, please pay attention while you're driving, but you know what I mean. Where it's kind of just becomes like second nature. And while you're doing those activities, you can listen to some videos on YouTube, turn them on, play it, and just let it run. I have one video that's like 5 hours long. It's like a exam. It's a vocabulary masterclass, and it took me a long time to film. And towards the end, I'm kind of like fading out. So if it gets boring, then I apologize. I try to be as enthusiastic as possible when possible, but just you guys can. So that's huge. Anything else you recommend about it? Or for them?
I wouldn't study for too long of a period of time. I found that if you get to a point where you're reading sentences 6 times and they're not sticking, put it down for a while.
Okay.
30-minute to an hour-long intervals each day is focusing on the topics that you need like a little more work to understand properly. Even if you think you completely get the concept, read it every day.
Awesome.
So once you get into the exam and you don't have any resources around you and it matters getting that answer right, it's kind of a pretty intense situation. So
yeah, for sure, you're trying to recall things that you were listening to. So if someone was going to study
second nature, you don't want to have to go through your catalogs. Like you need to be able to read the question and regurgitate it.
No, right away.
If you have that level of understanding, I don't think you'll have any problems. Because that's what that's where I had to get to before I was able to like really understand what the questions were asking me.
Okay, cool. So if someone wanted to study for 2 hours a day, you'd recommend them to break it up into a few sessions rather than one long 2-hour session? If
possible.
Awesome. That's a good idea. Makes sense. Probably easier, too, if someone's based on someone's or a lot of people's schedules, And guys, if you have busy days, wake up a half hour earlier. Wake up an hour earlier. Go to bed a half hour later if you have to. Like you got to.
Have to.
Yeah, exactly. You got to do what you got to do. And if that's something you're not willing to do, you probably shouldn't sell insurance because this is a tough industry. Like my first year, I mean, I still work this much, but my first year I worked 70, 80 hours a week. I mean, you don't have to do that, but I'd say at least for the first few months, 60 hours a week into this as a career to get good at it because you have to learn. And also, so like, think about this, guys, too. In terms of businesses, and the insurance business is not that hard of a business to start in terms of a barrier to entry, right? Because if you were to start a construction company, you'd have to get your license, you'd have to get equipment, you'd have to get a team or whatever, and you'd have to learn the whole trade and everything else. So there's a big barrier to entry there. You have to have experience, you have to have some capital, or at least debt that you can get into debt to get these things. If say you want to start a restaurant, same thing, right? You got to know what you're cooking. You got to have staff. You got to have all the equipment. You got to, you get go into debt usually, or have a bunch of capital. So the insurance industry is a little bit easier because like you just have to have a license, and then maybe some money to buy leads or something, depending on what company you work with. But that's it. So don't let that trick you with like how much effort you should apply starting out. 'Cause it's super rewarding, super successful. You can be very, very successful selling insurance, and it's changed my life completely. But yeah, so guys, just get committed, study your heart out, get the vocabulary down, take Chris's advice here. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today. I was gonna say any last words, but that's not doesn't sound right. Any last comments or suggestions or anything like that? Awesome. Well, that helped me so much, man. I think I'm going to make a video on that specifically, and then and put that into the course, integrate that somehow. Because I think one thing that a lot of tools guys don't have is just some explanation of, hey, how should you go through this material? How should you study? How should like in like the advice he said right there, which is huge. So this is a guy who persisted and persevered, and you're definitely going to be successful in this or whatever you decide to do, man. So super happy to have you on the channel. Thank you so much, Chris. And if you guys took some value from this, please subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications. If you want a copy of my study guide, just click the link in the description of the video. And my email's in there as well if you'd like to reach out to me. Thank you.